The meeting hall of Vareth shimmered with cold silver light. Walls curved like the inside of a great metal beast, alive and humming. Hundreds of alien eyes stared at the lone human standing in the center. Captain Liam Cross stood tall, his black uniform clean but dusty from travel. He had come alone, representing Earth, the youngest world to join the intergalactic alliance. Around him the warriors of Vareth moved like shadows. They were tall, elegant, and sharp like blades. Their skin shimmered in shades of silver and blue. Their armor was living metal, breathing softly with every motion. No human had ever stood this close to the Varethi Council before. At the high table sat Commander Rayla. Her eyes were bright like lightning. Her voice sharper than glass. She was feared across the galaxy, known for ending battles with a single command. Every warrior respected her and every enemy feared her, and now she was staring at the human who dared to speak without permission. Liam's voice was calm, low, and steady. He spoke about peace, about trade, about trust. But every word seemed to echo in a room filled with quiet hate. To the Varethi, humans were wild, emotional, and undisciplined. They believed humans were a mistake in evolution, a species driven by chaos. As Liam finished his speech, he turned to leave. The walkway was narrow, lined with alien guards. He stepped aside to avoid one, and by accident, his shoulder brushed against Commander Rayla's arm. The hall froze. Every sound vanished. Even the air seemed afraid to move. Rayla's eyes snapped to his face, the room filled with silent fury. Every soldier raised their weapon. Her voice cut through the air like fire. "Touch me again and you die," she said slowly, her words cold and final. Liam looked at her, his face unreadable. For a moment, everyone expected him to beg for forgiveness. No one ever touched a Varethi leader and lived to tell the tale. But instead, the human smiled. A small, dangerous smile. It wasn't pride or arrogance. It was something else, something the Varethi could not understand. Quiet defiance. He looked straight into her eyes and said softly, "We'll see about that." Gasps filled the hall. No one spoke to Commander Rayla like that. Not even her own generals. The silence that followed felt endless. Rayla stood without moving, her gaze locked on him. The corner of her mouth twitched, not in anger, but in curiosity. Who was this human who smiled at death? Her guards stepped forward, ready to kill, but she raised one hand, stopping them instantly. "Let him live," she said. Her tone was calm, almost amused. "Humans should learn what happens when they play with fire." Her words hung in the air like a silent threat. Liam nodded once and walked away slowly. The heavy doors closed behind him, and only then did the hall breathe again. Outside, the twin suns of Vareth burned across the metallic sky. Liam stopped at the balcony, feeling the strange wind on his face. He could feel dozens of eyes watching him from behind. But he didn't turn. He whispered to himself, "Fear is only power if you believe in it." Inside the council chamber, Rayla remained seated. She watched the doors where Liam had left. Something about that man disturbed her, not because he broke the rule, but because he didn't fear her. No alien, no soldier, no enemy had ever looked at her that way. With calm eyes, with no anger, no fear, just quiet confidence. Later that night, Rayla stood alone in her private chamber. Her hand rested on the spot where the human had touched her. The warmth was still there. She should have felt disgust, but instead, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Curiosity. She whispered to herself, "Strange creature." Meanwhile, far below the grand towers of Vareth, Liam walked through the dusty barracks where other humans worked. They stared at him in shock. They had already heard the story. The human who touched the Varethi commander and lived. Some laughed in disbelief, others whispered prayers. But Liam just smiled and said, "It's only dangerous if you stop thinking." That night, as the city lights of Vareth glowed like stars trapped in steel, rumors spread through every level of the alien world. "Did you hear?" The human touched Rayla. "They say she didn't kill him. They say she smiled." In the command tower, Rayla watched the human's record on her holoscreen. His missions, his background, his past wars. Every line of data made her more interested. This man was no ordinary soldier. He had survived 3 wars, rescued alien children, and refused medals. What kind of creature risks his life and smiles at death? She turned off the screen and looked at the stars. For the first time in years, the great commander of Vareth felt something dangerous. Not anger, not fear, but a question. Who was Captain Liam Cross? And why did he make her heart burn like a rising sun? The wind outside howled against the metal walls, and in the distance thunder rolled over the alien city. The story of one human and one warning had begun. But no one, not even Rayla herself, knew what it would become. 3 days passed after the meeting, but the story of the human who touched Commander Rayla still echoed through every corridor of Vareth. The aliens whispered his name with disbelief and fear. Some called him brave, others called him insane, and some said he was already dead. He just didn't know it yet. Captain Liam Cross was reassigned to an outer patrol station. It was far from the city, at the edge of the great desert plains, a place where lightning storms danced across the sand like angry spirits. Most soldiers sent there never returned. It was a punishment post, and everyone knew it. But Liam didn't complain. He took his orders with a smile. He had been punished before, but never by an entire empire. He packed his few belongings, his old photo from Earth and his worn-out journal. Then he walked through the metallic corridors to the shuttle bay. When he entered the ship, the alien crew went silent. No one dared look him in the eye. They were afraid, not of him, but of what he represented. A human who had defied their commander and lived to them. It was like surviving lightning. The desert base was small and forgotten. A few towers, a landing pad, and a storm shield flickering in the hot wind. Liam was assigned to guard duty and routine patrols. He didn't mind. He liked the quiet. He liked the stars at night, and they reminded him of home. But something felt strange. He could feel eyes on him even in the empty corridors. At night, he would hear faint humming in the air, as if someone was watching through the sand and wind. On the 4th night it happened, the storm was wild, red lightning slashing the horizon. He stood at the watchtower alone. When a shadow moved through the storm, it walked straight through the lightning, calm and fearless. And when it came close enough, he saw her, Commander Rayla. Her armor gleamed like liquid silver under the flashes of light. Her cloak moved like smoke. She looked at him with those cold electric eyes. No escort, no guards, no warning, just her. Liam stood still. He could have saluted or bowed or looked away. But he did none of that, he just smiled. "I didn't expect visitors," he said calmly. Rayla stepped closer, her boots silent on the metal floor. Her voice was quiet but sharp. "You speak too much for a man standing on his own grave," Liam chuckled softly. "I was told the same thing on Earth once," he replied. That answer made her stop. Her head tilted slightly, curious again. She circled him slowly like a predator studying strange prey. "You humans confuse me," she said. "You break rules, you challenge death, and yet you smile while doing it." Liam shrugged. "Maybe we smile because we know everything ends anyway." Her eyes narrowed. "You sound proud of that." "Maybe," he said simply. "Maybe that's why we keep fighting." She moved closer. Only inches away now. The air between them was electric. "Do you know why we forbid touch?" she asked. Liam shook his head. "Because your touch carries energy?" She smiled faintly. "No," she whispered. "Because emotion travels through touch." Then she lifted her hand and placed it lightly against his cheek. The touch was cold at first, then warm, strange and powerful. His heartbeat echoed in his ears. The metal tower around them felt alive. Her eyes softened for the briefest second, but then she pulled her hand back fast, as if burned. "Now you understand," she said, her tone shifting back to steel. Liam didn't move. He could still feel the warmth of her hand on his face. Then he smiled again. That same calm, dangerous smile, without speaking. He reached forward and touched her back once and then again, slower. Twice. Every soldier in the shadows gasped. Even the storm seemed to pause. Lightning flashed across the desert sky. But Rayla didn't strike, she didn't move at all. Her expression was unreadable. Her eyes filled with something no one had ever seen. Confusion, anger, curiosity, and something else. For a long moment, they just stood there staring at each other. The wind howled around them, and then finally she spoke. "You are either the bravest man in the galaxy," she said softly, "or the most foolish," Liam smiled. "Sometimes. They're the same thing," he replied. Without another word, she turned and walked into the storm. Her cloak disappeared in the red lightning. The tower shook as thunder roared behind her. And just like that, she was gone. Liam stood there, staring into the endless desert. His fingers still tingling from the touch. He knew something had changed. He didn't know what. but he could feel it in his bones. Something had begun between them, something dangerous and unstoppable. Far away inside her ship, Rayla sat in silence. Her hand trembled slightly, a rare thing for her. She looked down at her palm and whispered, "He touched me twice." And though she would never admit it, for the first time in years, she didn't feel alone. Outside, the storm finally broke. The lightning faded into the night, and the desert of Vareth went quiet again. But above that quiet world, two destinies had already collided, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. The days after the storm felt different. The desert wind still blew, the towers still hummed. But something unseen had changed. Every guard at the outpost now looked at Captain Liam Cross with quiet fear. They had seen the impossible. A man touching Commander Rayla twice and still breathing. Rumors spread like fire through the alien ranks. Some said the commander spared him because she was studying him. Others whispered she had found something dangerous in him, something human. But Liam stayed the same. He worked, trained, and walked the watchtowers as if nothing had happened. Yet at night he found himself looking toward the horizon, waiting for a silver shadow to appear again. He didn't know why, maybe curiosity, maybe something else he couldn't name. On the seventh night, his waiting ended. Without warning, a ship landed near the base, silent. Dark and sleek, the guards stood ready. But then they froze when they saw who stepped out. Commander Rayla. This time she wasn't wearing armor, only a light gray uniform that shimmered like smoke. She walked straight toward Liam, ignoring every stare. "Walk with me," she said simply. He followed her through the metal gates. No one dared to stop them. They walked into the open desert. The sand was cold under two moons. Wind whispered between the dunes like old voices. Neither spoke for a while, then she finally said, "You confuse my people." Liam smiled faintly. "That's nothing new," he said. She looked at him sharply, then sighed. "You should fear me," she said quietly. "I do," he answered. "But not in the way you think." Rayla stopped walking. She looked at him, her eyes glowing faintly under the moonlight. "Explain," she said. Liam looked at the stars. "I fear losing what makes us human," he said softly. "When you fight too long, you forget why you fight." Rayla tilted her head. "Humans fight for emotion," she said. "We fight for order." "Maybe that's why we'll never understand each other," he replied. "Or maybe that's why we need each other." For a moment, her cold face softened. The desert breeze brushed her silver hair across her face. She didn't move to fix it. He looked at her and smiled again. "You look almost human under this light," he said. Her eyes widened slightly. "That is not a compliment," she said flatly. "Wasn't meant as one," he teased. And for the first time, Rayla almost laughed. They walked for hours talking about war, about stars, about silence. She told him about her first battle when she was only 16, how she had lost her brother to a human ship years ago, yet she found herself unable to hate him. Liam listened without judging. He told her about Earth, the oceans, the rain, the feeling of grass under bare feet. She listened like a child hearing a fairy tale. No alien had ever been to Earth. It was just a blue myth to them. When the night grew colder, she stopped. "Why did you touch me again?" she asked quietly. Liam thought for a moment, then said, "Because you told me not to." Her eyes narrowed. "Do all humans disobey warnings?" "Only the ones worth remembering," he said with a grin. Her lips curved slightly, not quite a smile. "You risked your life to make a point," she said. "No," he replied. "I risked it to remind you that fear doesn't own us." For a long time, neither spoke. Then she said softly, "You're strange, human. And you," he said, "are the most human alien I've ever met." Something changed in her eyes. The cold fire was gone, replaced by something warmer, something alive. She looked away quickly. "This conversation never happened," she said firmly. "Of course," he said. "I'll make sure to forget it." Her eyes flashed with amusement. "You are impossible," she muttered. He smiled. "That's what they say about all humans." The next morning, she was gone, but something had been left behind. Not a gift, not a message, just a single silver badge with the Varethi crest, placed on his desk, shining in the sunlight. He stared at it for a long time. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't a promise either. It was something in between, a silent connection. That night, he couldn't sleep. He walked to the top of the tower, staring at the stars. He wondered what she was thinking. Somewhere out there, aboard her massive warship, was a commander who had started to feel, and somewhere here on a lonely desert base was a human who had started to believe again. At that same moment, Rayla stood at the window of her ship. The stars reflected in her silver eyes. Her hand brushed the spot on her cheek where his touch had once lingered. Her voice was a whisper, barely a breath. "Strange creature," she said again, but this time her tone was not cold. It was soft, uncertain, almost human. In the silence of the galaxy, something powerful was awakening. Not a weapon, not an empire, but a connection, fragile, dangerous, and beautiful. And neither of them knew that soon. It would be tested by fire. The days turned into weeks. The desert storms of Vareth began to fade, but something stronger was forming in silence. Between a human soldier and an alien commander, something forbidden, dangerous, and beautiful. Rayla and Liam met again and again in secret, sometimes at the desert's edge, sometimes in the quiet tunnels below the base. Each time they spoke, the wall between them cracked a little more. She no longer looked at him as a soldier or an enemy. She looked at him as something she couldn't define. And that scared her more than any war. But the galaxy is never kind to secrets. Whispers reached the Varethi High Council. They spoke of a commander who had lost her judgment, who had grown too close to a human, who had begun to feel, and in their world, feelings were weakness, so they decided to act one night. Rayla was summoned to the capital ship. The chamber was filled with light and judgment. The elders stared down from their high seats, their faces cold as stone. "Commander Rayla," the prime elder said, "you have dishonored your title." She stood tall, silent, her face calm. "What dishonor?" she asked. "You allowed a human to touch you." "Not once but twice," the elder hissed. "You have spoken with him, defended him, even protected him. Your loyalty now belongs to the wrong species." Her hands clenched behind her back. "I have done nothing that endangers Vareth," she said firmly. "Then prove it," the elder replied coldly. "Kill the human." The room fell silent. Her pulse froze, but she did not move. "Kill Captain Liam Cross," the elder continued. "Do it publicly, and your honor will be restored." Rayla's eyes narrowed slightly. Her voice was soft but steady. "And if I refuse?" "Then you will be declared a traitor," he said. "Your rank will be stripped, and your name erased." When she left the council chamber, her heart was heavier than armor. She walked through the cold corridors. Her mind spinning like a storm. Duty whispered one truth, but something deeper whispered another. She remembered Liam's words. "Fear doesn't own us." And for the first time she didn't know which voice to follow. Back at the desert base, Liam knew something was wrong. Rayla had gone silent for days. No messages, no visits, only silence. Even the guards avoided him now. Whispers spread. "She's been ordered to end him." He didn't believe it at first. But when her ship appeared over the base, he understood. She landed alone. Stepping out with her armor gleaming under the suns, her soldiers stayed behind. Watching, waiting, Liam stood on the tower, calm as ever when she approached. Their eyes met, the same quiet fire. "Orders?" he asked softly. Her voice was low, heavy. "They told me to kill you." "I figured," he said. "Are you going to?" For a long time she said nothing. Her hand moved toward her weapon, but it trembled. "You could run," she said, her voice breaking slightly. "I don't run," Liam replied quietly. He took a step closer, his tone gentle. "If this is how it ends, at least I made you feel something real." Something inside her cracked. Her fingers tightened, then loosened again. She couldn't do it. Her heart, the heart she had buried under steel, refused. In that moment she made her choice not as a commander but as a living soul. The sound of boots echoed behind her. Varethi soldiers appeared, weapons raised. The High Council had sent observers. They had expected this. "Commander, finish him!" one shouted. But instead she turned her weapon, not at Liam, but at them, and with a flash of light she fired. Chaos filled the air. Blinding blasts, screams, the smell of burning metal. Liam grabbed her arm, pulling her toward cover. "What are you doing?" he shouted. "Ending a lie," she said fiercely. "They will call us traitors now," he warned. "Then we'll be traitors together," she said. The battle was short but violent. By the time the smoke cleared, the ground was littered with wreckage. The soldiers were gone. Their ships burning under the desert suns. Rayla stood beside Liam, breathing hard. Her armor cracked. For a moment there was silence, only the wind. Then she looked at him and said quietly, "There is no going back now." He smiled faintly. Was there ever? They stole a small transport and vanished into the night sky. Behind them, alarms echoed across Vareth. The council declared them both enemies of the Empire. Every ship, every soldier, every hunter would come for them. As their vessel drifted through the endless dark, Rayla sat in silence, staring at the stars. Liam looked at her and said softly, "So what now?" She turned to him, her eyes no longer cold. "Now," she said, "we survive, but deep down, both of them knew. This was more than survival. It was rebellion. It was the beginning of something the galaxy had never seen. A bond between two enemies that could either save the stars or burn them all." Outside, the stars moved quietly, two fugitives alone in a universe built on fear. But in that fear, they had found something greater. Hope. The stolen ship drifted through the silent dark of space. Stars stretched like rivers of light beyond the window. Inside, two fugitives sat in the dim glow of the control room. Commander Rayla, once the pride of Vareth, and Captain Liam Cross, the human who broke her rules. Now they were both wanted, hunted, and utterly free. For days they hid between asteroids, moving from shadow to shadow. Every radio channel carried one message: capture Rayla of Vareth and the human Liam Cross. Dead or alive? She listened in silence. He smiled softly and said, "At least they finally put our names together." She didn't answer, but her eyes softened for a heartbeat. The peace didn't last. A coded message reached them, intercepted from the High Council. The Varethi had built a planet-killer weapon, a pulse cannon that could wipe out an entire human colony in a single strike. It was hidden deep within the capital world of Vareth Prime. Liam read the data, his jaw tight. "They're going to start a war," he said. Rayla's voice was quiet but fierce. "No, they already did." They both knew what they had to do. One final mission, one impossible chance to stop the weapon before it fired. Together they planned every step, every route, every distraction, every sacrifice. It was madness, but Liam only grinned. "Madness is kind of our specialty," he said. Rayla shook her head, but her lips curved slightly. "Humans," she murmured. "You make chaos look beautiful." When their ship entered Vareth Prime's orbit, alarms screamed across the sky. Thousands of defense drones rose from the surface. Lasers flashed through space like red lightning. Rayla piloted with deadly focus. Liam manned the guns, his hands steady, his eyes calm. They fought like one heartbeat, one rhythm, every move she made. He understood. Every shot he fired, she trusted. They crashed through the outer defense line and landed near the core tower. Smoke filled the air, metal burned. Rayla led the way. Cutting through guards with ruthless precision, Liam followed, covering her back. They fought side by side, human and alien, soldier and warrior. Every corridor brought them closer to the weapon's heart. Every breath tasted like fire. Finally, they reached the control chamber. At the center stood the pulse core, a massive sphere glowing with blue light. Energy roared around it, powerful enough to destroy a world. Rayla began to type commands into the control console. Liam guarded the entrance, blasting drones that poured through the doors. 5 minutes, she shouted. "That's all I need." "You've got 3, he yelled back, smiling through the chaos. Then the floor shook. A huge explosion tore through the chamber wall. Out of the smoke stepped the Prime Elder himself, armored and burning with fury. "Traitor," he hissed. "You chose a human over your own kind." Rayla stood straight, her voice calm and strong. "I chose what was right." He raised his weapon, but before he could fire, Liam jumped in front of her. The blast hit him in the chest, throwing him to the floor. "Liam!" she screamed. He smiled weakly, blood glimmering under the blue light. "Finish it," he whispered. "I can't," she said, her voice shaking. "Yes, you can," he said, "because this is what we are, not fear, not hate. Just hope." She turned back to the console, her hands trembling. The weapon core began to overload. The Elder lunged forward, but Rayla fired first. The shot hit him straight through the heart. The great hall fell silent except for the hum of the dying machine. She ran to Liam's side. His breathing was shallow, his eyes dim. He looked at her and smiled again. "Remember what you said that day?" he whispered. "Touch me again and I'll die," she said softly. Tears shining in her eyes, he nodded, weak but smiling. "So I did it twice anyway," he breathed. Her hands shook as she touched his face, once, then again. Her tears fell on his skin like tiny stars. He exhaled one last time, and the light in his eyes faded. The weapon core began to collapse. Rayla stood, her armor cracked, her heart breaking. She pressed her palm to the control panel and whispered, "For you?" Then she activated the overload. The explosion spread across the tower like a sun being born. It swallowed the weapon, the city, and the darkness around it, but in that light, something changed forever. When the smoke cleared, the weapon was gone. The Varethi Empire was broken, and across the stars, humans and Varethi both spoke of the same story. A human who smiled at death and an alien who learned to feel. Together they stopped a war and changed two worlds. Legends say that if you stand on the desert of Vareth on a silent night, you can still see two lights in the sky, one blue and one silver. They say those lights touch twice before they fade, and the stars whisper their names: Liam Cross, the man who touched a commander and defied a galaxy, and Rayla of Vareth, the warrior who learned how to love. Their story ends where all great ones begin, with a touch and a smile.